So you just got yourself a Nintendo Entertainment System, the console that single-handedly changed the face of gaming forever, not to mention reinvigorating it. And to go along with it, you have the primary controller and maybe even a zapper. Of course, you have a couple of games to play with it, or more depending on your gaming crave. But maybe, just maybe, there's something about the original controller that you don't like. Whether it be its blockiness or the basic scheme of it, it just doesn't work for you. But luckily there are more options to be had, and this is one of them. This is the NES Max, an upgraded controller for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It's definitely a much different controller from the original, but one thing I expected from the Max was for it to be bigger than it actually is. This is what it's like in my hand. It's like I could crush it without a problem. While we're on the subject of my big hands, this is what it looks like when I hold the controller. Clearly this was made for a younger audience that doesn't have hands my size. And I must say it isn't the most comfortable controller I've ever held. I don't know, it feels weird. Being me has a lot of ups, but sometimes there is the occasional down. Regardless of that, it's time to take a closer look at the NES Max. Moving away from the logo, we have one of its defining traits, the control pad. It can move 360 degrees and also has an outer ring to help you out with direction input. The best way I can describe this is it's like a control stick, just without the stick. Of course, we have the start and select buttons because you gotta have them, and they're in the diagonal fashion. I guess that's what was in at the time, or it was just the best way to fit them in. Now to the right we have the A and B buttons that are actually smaller than the original, but it doesn't matter when you take into consideration the other defining feature of the Max, the turbo buttons. For those who want to skip the kind of games where button mashing is a thing, with the push of these buttons, your A and B buttons can now do more that your fingers couldn't to begin with. The back of the controller is pretty plain and it has all the relative info you expect to find somewhere. The only other thing to note are these finger rests, if that's what you call them. If you feel that your index fingers are out of place, this is the spot to put them. But considering I got big boy hands, it doesn't do me much of a favor. The NES Max works with every game that requires the regular controller. I'd imagine some games can work with it better than others, but that just depends. Playing something like Gradius or Life Force works for movement's sake, but it could just be me. Whichever way you look at it, the NES Max is an interesting controller to say the least, with a unique C-pad and turbo buttons. It may not be meant for these hands, but it may be a controller for you to have if you want to play the games differently from what we're used to. But I honestly don't see how you can have a problem with the original controller. I mean, when this gets put on multiple shirts and the other doesn't, that's a statement right there. Got any fond memories with this controller/accessory? Tell me about it by leaving a comment. If you like what you see, be sure to leave a like. If you think others would like this, share the video around. And if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button pronto. This is BrianTheBlue, and I'll see you later.